विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Chapter 5, verse 19. Ihaiva tairjitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. So this chapter 5, two topics have been already discussed. The first topic is two types of lifestyles in order to gain moksha as a goal. Two lifestyles have been described in the Veda and Bhagavan also talks about it. Bhagavan calls it as a nishtha. Lokesmin vividha nishtha pura prokta maya naga. So a life of a grihastha, a life of activity, and a sannyasa ashrama, a life of seclusion. Two lifestyles are there. Remaining in either of the lifestyle, one can gain moksha. So this kind of a clarification Bhagavan has given in the initial 6 verses of this chapter, because Arjuna had a question. Like us, that one who goes into a sannyasa ashrama, one who definitely acquires a sannyasi, becomes a sannyasi. Well, the moksha is certain. And grihasthas will definitely never get a sannyasa, etc. And he was having that kind of inclination also for a sannyasa, etc. And therefore, Bhagavan wanted to clarify that, for moksha, either of the lifestyle, is okay. And that's the first topic Bhagavan discussed. And in fact, he said also that karma sannyasat karma yogaha vishishyate. Arjuna, if you are asking me, because now there you have a choice, either to be a grihastha or either to be a sannyasa in order to acquire moksha. Well, then you will definitely ask, because when choice will be there, the responsibility becomes more, what to choose. So then Arjuna asked Bhagavan as though, that, which lifestyle is better out of the two in order to gain moksha? And Bhagavan said, karma sannyasat karma yogaha vishishyate. Karma yoga is better, means life of activity. Grihastha is better than karma sannyasa. So rather than a sannyasa, being a grihastha is much better. And he narrated also before also, and here also, sannyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptum ayogatah. I mean, ayogatah, if you are not mature enough and you jump into the sannyasa ashrama in order to gain moksha, etc., you choose that lifestyle, dukkham aptum. Basically, you will acquire a lot of dukkham. So it's better that for most of the people, for majority of the people, the life of a grihastha, life of activity is better, and being in either of the ashrama, one can definitely gain moksha. That's the first topic discussed. Second topic discussed was a karma yoga, from verse number 7 to 12. Now, because one has to, go through both the spiritual disciplines called karma yoga and jnana yoga. There is no choice so far as these spiritual disciplines are concerned. One cannot choose just that I will be a karma yogi and I will gain moksha. It's not possible. Karma yoga definitely gives you a qualification, and then one has to gain jnanam ultimately, because the bondage itself is born of ignorance. And then therefore, in order to eliminate ignorance and thereby the bondage, one has to acquire knowledge. And therefore, knowledge also is equally important. Jnana yoga also is equally important. And therefore, Bhagavan talked about both spiritual disciplines. Not just in this chapter, everywhere also. That's how in Kandika we have a verse, the Kandika is there at the end of every chapter. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastra. So Brahma Vidya, Jnana Yoga also is important, and Yoga Shastra means Karma Yoga also is important. Both the topics are there. And Veda prescribes both the types of spiritual disciplines called Veda Purva Vibhagaha, Karma Kandaha, and Vedanta called Upanishad, talks about Jnanam also. So both are important. So the second topic discussed in this chapter is Karma Yoga between verse 7 to 12. And now verse 13 to 21 is this Jnana Yoga. And now the question will be, what is Jnana Yoga? So Jnana Yoga here means Atma Jnanam. So Atma Jnanam means what? So then let's take an example for that. Take an example of my hand. If I say, what do you see here? You will say it is hand. Again, I ask you, what do you see here? You say, I see only hand. Now you will add only. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, if I keep on asking you, you will say this thing only. You will have one answer that there is only hand. I say there is something else, but you don't agree. But yes, there is a second thing called light, by which you know my hand. So, light which pervades my hand, definitely it is present along with the hand, but you never take into account. And then I will talk about the nature of the light. Nature of light is what? Nature of light is, the light is distinct from the hand, first. Then the second point is, light is something which pervades and illumines the hand. Second. Third point is, light is even beyond the periphery of the hand. It is present. It is not just here, it is in the periphery also. Third point. Then fourth point, even if I remove my hand, light continues to exist. Right? This is the fourth point. And so, basically, this is the nature of light I have to recognize. A distinct principle other than the hand, and which has these characteristics. Same way, now replace light by this consciousness, Atma. And instead of a hand, let us take this body-mind-sense complex. This body-mind-sense complex, which is an object of experience, like the hand. I also feel, the object of experience which I am experiencing right now, I don't think any other existence of any other thing other than this body-mind-sense complex, so far as Atma is concerned. That is how everyone says, I am body, I am mind, I am senses. But basically, what body-mind-sense complex are also revealed. They are experienced every moment. And therefore, there must be some light. Right? Otherwise, they cannot be experienced. They can never become an object of experience. And therefore, a consciousness is such a light. That is how in our Shastra, we always talk about the consciousness or Atma as a Jyotihi. We always talk like that, Jyotihi. Jyotihi means a light. But this Jyoti is not like a physical light, but definitely. This is also light. The definition of light is in presence of which a thing is known or experienced, in absence of in absence of which a thing is not experienced or known. That's called light. And you can consider that way even sun, moon, everything. All this, even lightning, etc. also. Well, in presence of that, a object is revealed, experienced or known, illumined, and in absence, well, it is not known. And therefore, same way this Atma, well, the consciousness without which no object can be experienced, illumined, no object can be known. So body is, physical body is known, so definitely consciousness is there. And then mind, well, is experienced, so consciousness is there. Senses are experienced, consciousness is there. My hunger, thirst, pranas, etc. are experienced, consciousness is there. Even though, like hand, I only consider one thing, but, well, if I experience the hand, then I have to take into account a principle which is distinct from this hand and which is in the form of a light, definitely. Same way, here also, it's okay. So same way this consciousness also, well, which is a distinct principle other than this body-mind-sense complex, like light is a distinct principle other than the hand, which is in the form of illumining this hand, etc. And same way consciousness also is principle distinct from the body-mind-sense complex, in presence of which a body-mind-sense complex is known, experienced, illumined. And therefore, and then nature of consciousness, well, like nature of light, I can narrate in few lines. This consciousness is one which is distinct from this body-mind-sense complex. Like light is a distinct from the hand. Same way consciousness is distinct from this body-mind-sense complex. Second, light is one which pervades and illumines the hand. Consciousness is something, consciousness is a principle which definitely pervades the body-mind-sense complex, and that is why body-mind-sense complex is sentient. Then the third point is, if hand is not there, then, well, still light will continue to survive. In absence of hand also, light continue to survive. As third point is, well, this light is not basically limited to the periphery of this hand. Light is present or even outside the hand. It is all pervading so far as room is concerned. Same way consciousness also, well, which pervades this body-mind-sense complex, but definitely consciousness also exists beyond that. That is a third point. Fourth is, like light, light continues to be there even when I remove the hand, etc. Same way consciousness continues to be there even this body-mind-sense complex is absent due to prarabdha, etc. So this is a fourth point. So these are the way I can understand, I can identify consciousness. This is the first stage of a Jnana Yoga, in which I identify a distinct principle because of which the whole world is experienced, including body-mind-sense complex. Now the second stage of this Jnana Yoga is that consciousness is myself. Because I am the one in presence of which all experiences takes place. If I am a seer, the sight takes place. If I am a hearer, then basically words are heard. And therefore this conscious being, basically, because of which all experiences takes place, seeing, hearing, etc., all, that consciousness, well, is nothing but myself. So this is the second stage. First thing is to identify consciousness, a distinct principle other than this object of experience is the world, varieties of the objects, which are illumined by that consciousness. And the second part is that consciousness is me. Means I identify with the consciousness as myself. That's the second stage. And then definitely I I pervade not just this one body, I pervade all the bodies. Like light does not pervade just one hand. Light pervades all the hands and all the bodies, everything which is present in this hall. Same way, I, the consciousness, illumines everything, not just this one body, mind, sense complex. In fact, I illumine the space. I illumine the bodies in the space. And I illumine everything in the world, basically. Therefore, I am not present in the body. I am not present in the body. Since I pervade all the bodies, definitely, I am not just within the body. In fact, I pervade entire world, including the space, basically. When the space is illumined by me, what illumines definitely pervades the whole thing. If light illumines the hand, then definitely light must be pervading the whole thing. Therefore, if consciousness, definitely illumines the whole space, consciousness pervades the space and the objects within. And therefore, this consciousness, I, the consciousness, is not limited to this body. I am not present in the body. But then why do I feel that I am in the body? I, the Atma, consciousness, why do I feel that I am in the body? Because in the body, in the mind, I get manifest. I get manifest. It's just a medium in which I get manifest, and therefore I feel that I am within, but actually I pervade everything. This is how it is. So, and the third stage of this jnanam is, ultimately, so far as the example is concerned, light and hand, there are two definitely realities. Both of us equal reality. Light also is a reality, hand also is a reality. One is a illuminator, other is illumined. Right? Two different principles. Both have a same reality. But here, the world or the body mind sense complex, which is illumined, and the consciousness are of not same order of reality. Because the whole world exists on account of me. Whatever you say, like space is, definitely it automatically proves consciousness is. Without consciousness, I cannot say even space is. Therefore, the very existence of space is dependent upon me, the consciousness. Right? And same way with the body. Body is, mind is, thought is, senses is, hunger is, thirst is. All automatically presupposes consciousness is. And therefore, this world which is illumined, definitely is of a less order of a reality, because they are not independently existent. If they are independently existent, they would be one reality, and the consciousness is another reality. Hand exists independent of the light, then definitely we can say both of the same order of a reality. But here it is not there. You cannot prove the world, you cannot prove the body mind sense complex in absence of consciousness. And therefore, consciousness is Satyam, which is self-existent, and the whole world, including space or even this body mind sense complex, they exist with a borrowed existence from the consciousness. And therefore, definitely, consciousness is Satyam, which illumines the world or the body mind sense complex, and what is illumined body mind sense complex is Mithya. And therefore, this is a different order of reality regarding the consciousness. I, the consciousness, Atma, Satyam, and the world or the body mind sense complex is Mithya. This is how it is. So, three stages are there in this Jnana Yoga, which has been under discussion from verse number 13 to verse number 21 in this chapter, has three steps. One is to identify consciousness independently as an illuminator, and then to identify that consciousness as the Atma, second step, and then understand that, definitely this object, all this world, or the body mind sense complex which is illumined, is of less order of reality, is Mithya. In fact, the whole world or the body mind sense complex, I am using or because, it is equally important. World is Mithya does not make much difference to me, but then body mind sense complex, in which I have a I sense, and consider them as a reality. Anyway, so this body mind sense complex, which is a Mithya, is non-separate from the consciousness. So, definitely it is mithya. So the consciousness alone is the essence of this body, mind, sense complex or the whole world. That's a reality. That is essence. That is the Atma. Same thing. Either you say reality, either you say essence, either you say Atma, either you say truth. Is one thing. Is one thing alone. And so these three steps. So one is realizing consciousness as a distinct principle. Second thing, taking it as Atma. And third thing is, well, now Atma, Anatma also in that Anatma is mithya. Atma is Satyam. Atma pervades the Anatma. Anatma is non-separate from Atma. Same thing. One and the same thing. So this is a Jnana Yoga. And once you realize that you are this consciousness, which is the truth of the entire creation or the body, mind, sense complex, then whatever the way the way you look at yourself, you look at others also in the same fashion. So I take myself as just consciousness. I will take you also as a consciousness. I will take you as a consciousness. And so I see Brahman, which is present in everyone. That has been discussed, that has been told in verse number 18. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shvapakecha panditaha samadarshinaha. This panditaha, one who has this knowledge basically, which is in these three stages. While one who knows this Atma is all pervading as Brahman, as consciousness, while they are called panditaha. Pandasya sthiti panditaha. These panditaha, samadarshina, they see one Brahman, one self everywhere, which is the reality. Other than that, whatever the names and forms are mithya, etc., anatma is mithya. And therefore, samadarshina, they see one reality everywhere. Whether it is a Brahmana, whether it is a cow, or whether it is a dog, or whether it is an elephant, or whether it is a dog eater. Their differences are there in forms. Differences are there in gross body. Differences are there in subtle body, in the minds. Well, that is there, but they are mithya. I, the essence, consciousness pervades everyone. All they exist on account of me, the consciousness, the self, and therefore, so they see the one reality in all. That is what has been told. And these panditas are called samadarshi. Sama means which is same, which is without change. What is without change is this consciousness. Other than that, what is object of consciousness keeps varying. Consciousness is invariably present, and therefore it is samam. Samam is without change. That is Brahman. So samadarshinaha means brahmadarshinaha. So that is how it has been told. And once I see this kind of a oneness or Brahman everywhere, then the biggest advantage is the fear of mortality will go away. Because limitless means basically time cannot affect. Time definitely affects the mind. Time definitely affects the body. Time affects my hunger and thirst. Time affects my senses. But that is not me. And therefore, time affects me, well, definitely they are born in time and they will go in time. And therefore, I, the consciousness, well, basically is not subject to time. Once I know this, definitely I am not subject to a fear of a mortality also. Because I never die. I am not subject to time, therefore I never die also. And therefore, the biggest advantage of understanding Atma as the reality or essence of everything, consciousness as essence of everything, well, once you understand that I, the limitless consciousness, alone is the truth of everything, then you are not subject to time. Even time exists due to consciousness. Time is, consciousness is. And therefore, consciousness provides existence to the entire world, including time and space. And therefore, time borrows existence from me. That time, being mithya, cannot affect me, the Satyam consciousness. And therefore, the fear of mortality will go away. That's the biggest advantage. Anyway, and there are other definitely. So then you are not subject to any kind of a limitation also. So you are free from all the limitations. That's called moksha. Freedom from limitations centered on oneself. Well, that is moksha. And that is what my nature is. I am consciousness is limitless. And therefore, well, there is no boundary for me in terms of time, place, or I'm not confined to any even object because I am limitless. And therefore, well, such a realizing myself, I mean realizing in terms of knowing clearly, well, that I, is I'm of this nature. This is actually my real nature. Well, taking body, mind, sense complex was out of ignorance, etc. Well, I should not have identified they are all object of consciousness or object of knowledge. Well, I am the one who illumines everything. I am the one who provides existence to everything. And therefore, definitely, I become free. I am free. Now I know through 3 steps that I am free. That's moksha. To know that I am free is freedom. That's all. To know that I am free is freedom. There is no freedom in terms of some kind of an event. It's not an event in time. That's what verse number 19 says. Ihaiva. Iha eva. Here itself. Taihi jitaha sargaha. Taihi. By these people who see this self as Brahman, by them, jitaha, won over, conquered. What? Sargaha. Sargaha means a birth, means death also. So they have won over this birth and death, rebirth also. They have won over this rebirth because they know themselves that they are never born. That's what it is. They are never born. You can win over rebirth by winning over birth. If you don't win over the birth, you cannot win over rebirth. And therefore, winning over rebirth means winning over the birth. Winning over birth means basically you realize that you are never born. You were never born. You were never born. You will not be born. That's my nature. What is born is not me. It's just a body, mind, sense complex, which is mithya. And therefore, I am the limitless consciousness who illumines all this mithya world, including body, mind, sense complex. That is not me. One who has this clear vision about oneself, well, definitely he becomes free. So this is verse 13 to 21. This is the essence. And then the problem occurred was, that is in the Bhashyam actually, in the verse 18 itself, that if I become a Samadarshi, but then that is through Vedanta Shastra, you know. But in other part of the Veda, well, this kind of a Samadarshanam, seeing everything one, and then definitely creates a problem. Means if you go to the Purva Vibhaga of the Veda called Karmakanda or Dharma Shastra, there you cannot see everything as one. In Vedanta Shastra, that is all right. So then what? Then because basically Dharma Shastra looks upon you as an individual, as a jiva, who is a karta, bhokta. That's how they prescribe so many karmas. Karmas can be prescribed to a one who takes oneself to a doer. If you are not a doer, then well, definitely karmas will not be for you. So Dharma Shastra tells you to do certain karmas and to refrain from not doing certain karmas, etc. Because Dharma Shastra looks the self as a karta bhokta, as a jiva. And that's how they talk also about punarjanma also. Punarjanma also. Yeah, that if you do good karma here, then you will acquire punya and you will gain definitely some good birth, etc. So basically, Dharma Shastra looks upon you as a one who acquires punyam, papam, who is a karta, bhokta, who can experience sukham, dukkham, everything. And who is a jiva, basically. So that is the issue. That Dharma Shastra looks upon the self as a jiva. And Vedanta Shastra looks upon the self as just opposite. Just opposite. In Dharma Shastra, karta bhokta. In Vedanta Shastra, it is akarta bhokta. Here one who acquires punya papa. Here na punyam, na papam, na saukhyam, na dukkham. So, well, what should we follow? And so you become a Samadarshi. Well, in Dharma Shastra, well, definitely you cannot have a Samadarshana. And that's what they have quoted one Smriti, which is a part of Dharma Shastra. Gautama Smriti. Bhashyakara quotes. What is that? Sama samabhyam vishama same pujataha. Sama samabhyam. Pujataha. In puja. In a religious function, in a social function, well, I'm extending to social function also. In social function also, you cannot see everyone as same. Yeah. You have invited some guest, then they should be given a particular chair, right? Even in the front row also, they everything. Now you say everything is Brahman, everything is one, therefore I look upon an ordinary person who also comes for that function, and the other person who is an invitee, a special guest, that also is ultimately Brahman. And therefore, everyone, anyone can sit anywhere. If I tell like that, it's a big problem. In puja also, some puja or yajna, etc. also, you have invited some priest. And then in priest, some priest may be more learned, some may be less learned, etc. So one who is, Acharya gives an example of one who knows one Veda. The other priest knows two Vedas. Or the third priest knows maybe three Vedas. Trivedi, Dvivedi, and Ekavedi, and Chaturvedi. So one who knows even four Vedas also. And so after puja is over, the Yajamana honors them with the dakshina and other things, equally. That's a wrong thing. So then in Dharma Shastra, one should have a Vishama Darshanam. You should not see them equally and then treat them equally. That invites papam actually. Pratyavaya. Very beautifully said at one place. Apujyaha yatra pujyante pujyanam tu vimanana tatra trini pravartante durbhiksham maranam bhayam cha. Apujyaha yatra pujyante. Yatra, in place, some place where the puja etc. is there, yajna etc. is there. Apujyaha, which should not be honored, they are honored. And pujyanam tu vimanana. And those who really should be honored, they are not honored or less honored, etc. Trini pravartante. Three types of pratyavaya papa they invite. Durbhiksham, in his home, in that Yajamana's home who has organized that function, in his home, durbhiksham, there will be scarcity of food. And maranam, somebody near and dear one may die. And bhayamcha, bhayam means some frightening event will occur in his life. So this is how it says. And here in Vedanta Shastra, everything is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. You can understand now. So that is what is to be done actually. That was the question. And for giving answer only, this verse 19 is there. And so it says here, Bhashyakara says, Nate doshavantaha. Even these people, the jnanis, who see Brahman everywhere, and they don't incur any kind of a papam, pratyavaya papam. Even if they see one Brahman everywhere, they see the self everywhere, etc. Still they don't incur any kind of a pratyavaya papam. How? But then in verse 19 he is explaining also, and Bhagavan also is explaining. So basically, depending upon the context, this is to be understood. In a Dharma Shastra's context, definitely, this kind of a Vishama Drishti should be there. When you come to Vedanta Shastra, that context is there, you have to understand one thing alone. And that is true. This is true. In spite of you have a one vision, you treat the things differently. That is our own experience. Like you have all the ornaments are lying. You have a vision in your mind. You have a knowledge that it is all gold. Right? Every ornament in reality is gold alone. But then, definitely, you don't treat all the ornaments equally. If earrings are there, you will put it here. And bangle is there, you will put it here. Or, ring is there, you will put in the finger, on the finger. Or else, definitely, it's not your problem. My face turn here and there, and therefore, it is, that's okay. Okay. So, basically, the transaction with the different ornaments is different. Vyavara is different. Even though you have a one vision, Samadarshi, you are a Samadarshi. Here, Samadarshi is a Suvarnadarshi. Definitely. I see one Suvarna actually, but definitely it doesn't mean. that I treat every ornament equally. I never treat. Never treat. In fact, natural chart of every ornament is different. One is born at a given time, prices are different, everything is different. Process of making is different. Goldsmith has in fact, he has a more Suvarna Darshana more, compared to us. Even though he makes ornament with different processes, prices are different, birth, death, etc., everything is different, right? Because ultimately, what comes into transaction is not gold, but a form. A form comes into transaction, not gold. You don't transact with the gold. You don't put gold here, you put the earring here. And therefore, what comes into transaction is a name and form. Of course, reality is gold. That's not question at all. Ornament is mithya. There is no doubt about it. Name and form is mithya, definitely. What you transact is always with the name and form. And same way here also, in Dharma Shastra, when they look upon you as endowed with name and form, called Brahmana or whatever, any Varna or any other thing, always they look upon you as an individual, means definitely that consciousness endowed with a body, mind, sense complex, which is endowed with a name and form. And therefore, there alone the transaction is possible, and there where the transaction is possible, where name and form is there, the transaction should be proper. That's called dharma. And therefore, in Dharma Shastra's context, well, definitely that's correct, that one should have a proper conduct depending upon this Dharma Shastra, whatever the injunctions, etc. are there, that should be there. This is just by the way, and that has to be discussed now in Bhashyam. And this Bhashyam is little elaborate Bhashyam, and I'm going through the entire thing because it is going to even remove a certain misconceptions regarding the self also. And well, that's how we are taking that entire Bhashyam also. So Bhashyakara says that nate doshvantah. Our jnanis are not going to incur any kind of papam having samadarshanam in everything. Katham. How? How do you say that? So then the verse is introduced. Verse is introduced by Bhashyakara like this. Ihaivatai jitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Basically. So Bhashyakara says, Iha eva jivat bihi eva taihi samadarshi bihi panditaihi jitaha vashikritaha sargaha janma, and then later portion we'll see later. So the first part of the verse is explained now. Iha eva. Iha eva means here itself. Jivat bihi, when the person is alive. Well, when the person is alive, eva taihi samadarshi bihi. By these people who have a samadarshanam, brahmadarshanam, who see the self everywhere, by them, when they are alive, when they are in this body, when they are alive, here alone, they become, by them, jitaha, conquered, vashikritaha, Bhashyakara says, well, won over, sargaha. By the people who see this Brahman everywhere, well, here itself, while they are alive, they won over this janma, means a cycle of birth and death, means they gain jivan mukti. That's what they want to indicate. So, sargaha janmaha. So, they won over this cycle of birth and death. It means even though they are subject to old age, they are subject to disease, everything is there, but still they are free. Yesham samye. The second part of the verse is been explained now. Yesham samye sarvabhuteshu brahmani samabhave sthitam. In verse it is Yesham samye sthitam manaha. So Yesham means for these people, for these wise people, basically, their manaha samye sthitam. Their mind basically is their buddhi or their antakaranam, their knowledge is ultimately has abided into samye. Samye means basically which has a sameness, that is Brahman. So Bhagavan uses word Brahma for Bhagavan uses word samam for Brahma. So samyam means which has a sameness. Samam means same. Samyam means which has sameness, means same, Brahman alone. So yesham samye. So sarva bhuteshu brahmani samabhave. They see one Brahman alone everywhere, like a goldsmith see one gold everywhere. Samabhave sthitam. Sthitam means what? Nishchali bhutam. Well, and these people who are Jivan Muktas, who are wise people, who have won over this birth and death, cycle of birth and death, well, their mind is basically has abided into that Brahman, which is present everywhere in every name and form as essence, as a truth of everything. Nishchali bhutam means abided, basically, and says manaha, sthitam. So their mind is sthitam. And manaha is equal to, Bhashyakara even defines manaha also, antakaranam. Why Bhashyakara has to define manaha as if we don't know? No, because basically antakaranam has a 4 aspects. Manaha, buddhihi, chittam, ahankara, etc. And Bhashyakara wants to say that don't think one of the faculty of the 4. Take it as a generic term. Antakaranam as such means this through mind one knows this. So that's how he has defined also. Mana means antakaranam. That also he says. Okay. So 2 parts have been explained by Bhashyakara. Ihaiva tair jitaha sargaha yesham samme sthitam manaha. Out of 4 quarters, 2 quarters have been explained of the words by Bhashyakara. Now the 3rd quarter. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. That's the most important thing. And it has been quoted by many acharyas, including our acharya. Bhashyakara also quotes this at several places. This Brahman is nirdosham, free from doshas. Last time only I explained that free from dosha means don't think free from impurities. It is free from attributes. Any attribute which is superimposed upon the Brahman, which is attributeless in reality, is considered as a dosha. Right? With regard to self, if you take the self as with attributes, then you are going to invite problems. Definitely. Any attribute, any. Starting from I am a karta, I am a doer of an action. You cannot remain free from the guilt. If I take myself as a karta, doer, people can't make themselves free of the guilt even after 25 years. After 25 years, 30 years, still they repent. Why did I do at that time? Like that. So if you take yourself as one attribute called karta, that guilt will remain throughout the life. So taking myself with attributes which in fact I am limitless, free from attributes. Well, then I superimpose certain attribute called kartrutvam, doership, etc. I am inviting problems. So that attribute is, even though attribute is just, kartrutvam is attribute, but it is a dosha actually. It's an impurity, which will invite problem. Then bhoktrutvam. Second, I am a bhokta. So you take with yourself with another attribute called enjoyership. Then you cannot make yourself free from hurt. Because somebody does something and you feel, well, ultimately you are victim of it. So even if some person doesn't say Hari Om to you, just, and you feel that, if you take yourself as a recipient of people's behavior, etc., whatever, so that's a bhoktrutvam. You are an experiencer or enjoyer of, definitely you are inviting problem. You cannot be free from the hurt also. And taking yourself with the punya papam, etc. So if you take as a doer and enjoyer, automatically connection to karma will come. This is the law. If you take yourself as a karta, you are automatically connected to karma. That's all. You can't make yourself free. And automatically connected to karma means birth, death, everything else. That whole cycle will come, which is totally based on karma. Right? And therefore, you will take yourself subject to birth and death also. And in between also, between birth and death, whatever vikaras are there, all also you say that belongs to me. right? And so jayate, asti, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati, all. So this is, all problems, several problems. You take yourself as a punyashali, or, you are, I earned a lot of merits, etc. Definitely with respect to some karma, you will take yourself as a, papi also, right? So it is going to happen. So if you take yourself with the attributes, then you invite problems, and therefore those attributes are considered as a dosha. Well, you are what? Nirdosham. You are free from any attributes. Anyway, so let us see what Bhashyakara says. Yadyapi, he is explaining word nirdosham. Yadyapi doshavatsu shvapakadishu मूढ़ैः तद्दोषैः दोषवत् इव विभाव्यते तथापि तद्दोषैः अस्पृष्टम इति. So yadyapi, even though, we have to add word atma. Even though the atma, the self, doshavatsu shvapakadishu, shvapaka, the chandala, the dog eater, definitely we'll look upon him as having a lot of papam, etc. He has a lot of doshas. So doshavatsu shvapakadishu. Shvapaka adi padat, you can take others also, other lower yonis, dog also. Dog is not considered generally as a animal which one should invite in any puja room or any yagashala, etc. It's considered papi yoni, etc. This is not proper context here. In America, of course, people keep a lot of pet dogs, etc. But I'm just saying. So shvapakadishu, all these are yonis are there, papi yonis are there. So you will look upon them as they are contaminated with a lot of papam, they are having doshas. Doshavatsu shvapakadishu mudaihi, those who don't know the Shastra, and then they will take someone as a punyashali, someone as a papi, some as a meritorious, someone as, sinner, etc. Because they don't know the reality is something different. There is one reality which pervades everything, the self pervades everything, that they don't know. That's how they are called mudaha. Mudaha means who are not exposed to the Shastra's teaching. Mudaihi, doshavat iva vibhavate. So Atma doshavat. This Atma basically is papi, punyashali, etc., being karta, bhokta, etc., sukhi, dukhi, everything. So doshavat means they consider, this mudas basically, they consider this Atma as a doshavat, contaminated with punyam, papam, etc. Iva vibhavyate. Iva vibhavyate means they look upon Atma as like this. Tathapi, in spite of that. Yadyapi means even though they see like this, tathapi, in spite of that, Atma asprishtam. Tad doshaihi Atma asprishtam. In reality, the Atma is free from those doshas which they look upon in the Atma. That's their ignorance. Actually, Atma is free from any dosha, that we have seen also. All the doshas are there. Not that doshas are not there. Doshas are not there in the self, the consciousness, Atma. Doshas are there in the mind, definitely. Ragadveshas are there, Kartrutvam is there, Bhoktrutvam is there. Punya Papa, etc. will be there in a Karana Sharinam also. That's a Sanchita from which you are going to get some, as a Prarabdha part of it, right? So they are there. They are not there, we are not saying. They are not there in Atma. I am distinct from this body-mind sense complex, definitely, that is mithya. I am the one which provides existence. I am the reality of everything. And therefore, I am free from all the doshas. The body must have any dosha. And therefore, so tathapi tad doshahi asprishtam. Asprishtam. It's not connected. Atma is free from, basically. Iti. Iti means iti hetoho. Since this reason is there, Atma is nirdosham. Atma is free from defects. Yasmat means since this is so, tasmat brahmani te sthitaha, this jnanis basically are abided into this nirdosham Brahma, the Brahman which is free from all attributes or all impurities. Apicha, na api svaguna bheda bhinnam nirgunatva chaitanyasya. I'm going to bother you for, because this particular portion, it's a bit, in which Bhashyakara basically, he adds note here in this Bhashyam. Well, in order to refute a certain misunderstanding regarding the Atma. So he takes up, he invites one Purvapakshi, which takes the Atma with attributes. And Bhashyakara wants to refute it. And that's part we have to now little bit discuss. One of the darshanas, one of the philosophers who look upon the Atma with the attributes is this Vaisheshikas. And sometimes Naiyayikas also, we add them because they are like twin brothers. Like Sankhya and Yoga go together. Our Vedanti and Karmakandi, of course, we are twin brothers, naturally. And even though we have a certain differences of opinion between two brothers, twin brothers also it will be there, right? And therefore, this Nyaya Vaisheshika, they share certain philosophy. Common, it is common. And so they believe that Atma, the self, is with the attributes. They say Atma is having 8 gunas. Ashta gunaha. What are the Ashta gunas? What are the 8 attributes Atma has? They say Raga, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Punyam, Papam, Samskara, Jnanam, that is consciousness, and Ichha. Consciousness is also an attribute of Atma. Ichha, desire, is in Atma. Ragadvesha belong to Atma. And this samskaras, vasanas belong to Atma. So this Ashtaguna Vishishta Atma, they say. And apart from it, certain attributes are superimposed upon Atma from the gross body. So Atma is taken as a male, as a female, black, white, etc., etc. Atma is taken as a Brahmana, etc. Atma is taken as a old. So, certain attributes are superimposed from the gross body to the Atma, and certain attributes Atma has already. Raga, Ichha, etc., they are there. And certain attributes are superimposed. Then what a wise man do, according to them? A wise man makes himself free from these gunas which are superimposed upon himself from gross body. So he will understand, this wise man, enlightened person understand, according to their philosophy. Wise man understands, I am not Brahmana, I am not Stri, I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am not old, I am not young, etc., etc. So that way he understands this gross body basically is not me, it is anatma. And therefore dharmas which belong to the gross body are not my dharmas. That person is an enlightened person. But then what about this Ichha, Raga, Dvesha, Samskara and all? No. He understands the Atma with these 8 gunas. Other gunas which are superimposed upon that, they are removed. That's what Vedanta you are saying, right? That Adhyasa, Nivrutti, etc. What is superimposed, well, upon yourself, that you remove, right? That is called Jnanam, right? And therefore, well, our Jnani also is like that. Yeah, he has removed the superimposed attributes called Brahmanatvam, Kshatriyatvam, Vruddhatvam, Stritvam, Pumstvam, because they belong to gross body, and you are not gross body, naturally. So Atma is Ashtaguna Vishishtaha. That's what they understand. Anyway, we say any attribute belong to body. Certain attributes belong to gross body, certain attributes belong to subtle body. Like Raga, Dvesha, Ichha, etc. belong to subtle body, mind. Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, etc. All this. Ichha and then Samskara, Vasanas, etc. Vasanas belong to Karana Sharira. Ultimately belongs to body. Punya Papa belongs to body. Causal body, ultimately. So everything. Whatever attributes are there in the self, they belong to the body. And body is an Atman. That is not me. It's non-I. It's an object of experience. That's how I'm able to say. The simple argument, I'm going in detail, but I'm giving you a simple argument. How do you say these attributes do not belong to me, the self? Because they are object of my knowledge. If they are not object of my knowledge, how would I know that there is an attribute called Ichha? There is an attribute called raga, dvesha, etc. You are able to objectify those attributes. If you are able to objectify, that is not you. Subject is one which is never available for objectification. Right? What is available for objectification, that is non-I. And therefore, if you are able to count the attributes, means they are basically illumined by you. They are objects of experience by you. And therefore, you, the subject, must be free from all the attributes. This is a simple answer. But Bhashyakara gives a little differently. We will have to go into little detail. So Bhashyakara says, well, na api swaguna bheda bhinnam. Na api swaguna bheda bhinnam nirgunatvat chaitanyasya. That Atma, the Chaitanya, the consciousness, nirgunatvat. Well, it is free from all the gunas, and therefore na api swaguna bheda bhinnam. So even you can't say Atmas are different because basically of their different attributes. Naturally, they say Atmas are many also because attributes are different. You have a different desire, I have a different desire. You have one set of likes and dislikes, I have another set of likes and dislikes. Right? You have a different samskaras, I have a different samskaras. And therefore, if Atma is having a gunas, then one Atma will be different from another Atma. So Bhashyakara says, well, these Atmas are taken by you are different, but because of these attributes, but that is not true because Atma, the Chaitanya, the consciousness is nirgunatvat. How Bhashyakara has that daring to say that Atma is Chaitanyam is free from attributes? Bhashyakara says, well, Shruti says that. That is how it is. What Shruti says, we are not trying to prove logically that Atma is free from attributes. We quote a Shruti statement and we say that what Shruti says is definitely beyond logic, but it is not illogical also. That's what we say. What Shruti says is not illogical also. We don't try to prove Atma logically, that it is free from attributes. What is the subject matter of the Veda cannot be proven through the logic. Logic is basically Paurushaya Pramana. So it cannot be proven through logic. But it is not illogical. What Shastra says is not illogical. Therefore, Acharya quotes, Vakshati cha. Vakshati means we will say, or it will be told, means pramana, the means of knowledge. Veda will say, Bhagavan Vakshati. So Bhagavan will tell in the 13th chapter. So right now we are in the 5th chapter. So means it will tell in the future. So Ichchadinam kshetra dharmatvam. You say Ichcha, Raga, Dvesha, etc. all belong to Atma, but Bhagavan says they belong to Anatma. Very clearly in the verse number 6, it has been told, Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sangatas, Chetana, Drutihi, Etat Kshetram Samasena. Etat Kshetram. Kshetram is which is Anatma, which is a field of experience, object of experience, which is Anatma. So Ichcha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, etc. all this belong to Anatma, the Kshetram. I am the Kshetrajna. Definitely 13th chapter talks about Kshetrajna. And therefore, so Bhagavan says here itself in 13th chapter, these gunas belong to Anatma. And therefore Atma is basically Nirgunam. What you are saying that Atma is having Ichcha and all these gunas, when Atma has these attributes, is not correct. And also, Anaditvad Nirgunatvad in the 13th chapter itself, and verse 31. Anaditvad Nirgunatvad, Atma is basically Anadi, beginningless, definitely free from birth and death, and also Nirgunatvad. Very clearly Bhagavan says Atma is free from attributes. Well, so if we can go by your statement that Atma is Sagunam, having attributes, Ashtaguna, or we can go by Bhagavan's statement. And regarding Atma, well, no Purusha, no human being is Pramana, right? Because if it becomes an object of knowledge for the human being, definitely we can take into account what other person says. But Atma is something which is Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Arasam, Nityam, Agandavat, which has never become an object of perception, inference, etc., not available for any other means of knowledge, being subject. Regarding that subject, what Apaurusheya Pramana Veda says, we will take into account. And therefore, Atma is basically free from attributes that we say, and still few more things are there of the Purvapaksha, that Vaisheshika. We will have to discuss this after a break. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yas Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Svatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivangkuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Deshakalakalana Vaichitra Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vijrumbhayatyapimaha Yogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Verse 19. Ihaiva tairjitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthita. So we are seeing the Bhashyam in which Bhashyakara is adding one note in order to remove the misconception regarding Atma. And if one gains a knowledge of the self which is free from attributes, well, for him, there is no cause of sorrow. No cause of sorrow. And so it is very essential to know the Atma as free, as attributeless, free from all attributes. And so any Purvapaksha is definitely, it's our own doubt, basically. We may say that, of course, this is Vaisheshika Darshanam, and talking about Atma with a certain gunas, etc. But ultimately, if you take yourself as a desirer, you will have a problem. If you take yourself with the likes and dislikes, people also, our own people, seekers, they say, Swamiji, everything is fine. I am Brahman, everything is fine. But you know how to handle this Raga Dvesh? Because I am having likes and dislikes. So, any attribute. The meditation basically pertaining to the self, the Nididhyasanam is this. Anytime this arises in your mind, that I am a human being, I am this, etc. Keep I am, retain I am. What is after I am, please try to see somewhere else. It does not belong to me. It belongs to somewhere. Since it is an object of experience, desire is an object of experience. Raga Dvesha is an object of experience. We won't say it is non-existent thing. They are existent. They are not in Atma. They cannot be equated with I am. So I am not a desirer. I am not one who is having likes and dislikes. I am not Sukhi. I am not Dukhi, etc., etc. I am unhappy. I am happy, whatever. Any attribute, in fact, the whole life of a human being is this, acquiring more attributes. Through education and through, afterwards also. Acquiring more and more attributes. He feels that if I acquire more attributes, I will definitely rule over others. Acquiring more attributes, I become I become bigger. More the attributes, I become bigger. More the attributes, person becomes smaller. Because you distinguish from others. More acquiring attributes, Vishesha, qualities are one, which distinguishes you from others. That's what the quality is. That is what the nature of qualities. If you tell me, Swamiji, you have this qualities, means basically you are trying to distinguish me from others. So it's a wrong direction. To become bigger, this is a wrong direction of acquiring attributes. That's called samsara. And so the ananda is something in which you become a common denominator in everything, You become, that is what the jnanam is. If you want to become bigger, don't claim attributes. How can you say, Swamiji, more pervading thing has less attributes? Akasha. Just see, between Akasha and the Prithvi, between space and the earth, what has more attributes? Earth has more attributes. Akasha, in fact, has the least attributes. We say one guna, right? Akasha has a one guna called sound, etc. Prithvi, the earth has 5 gunas. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, everything is there. More the gunas, less pervasion. So if you want to become more pervading, ultimately you have to give up all attributes. Then you become all pervading. So Brahman is free from attributes. You are Brahman and you are free from all attributes. That's what you are. Anyway, so this is, so seekers basically try to become free, try to know oneself free from attributes. Whereas samsara is the one who try to acquire more attributes through karma. And the seekers are one who try to know oneself free from attributes, where jnanam has a role, karma has no role. Karma is useful for acquiring more attributes. Anyway, but here, one of the Purvapaksha is this, Vaisheshikas. And Shankaracharya deals here specifically with this particular topic of a particular philosopher who is having this misconception regarding Atma. And this Vaisheshika Darshanam is propounded by one rishi called Kanada. Kanamatti iti Kanadaha. He was, they call it Unchavritti. So, that rishi was living on the grains which have fallen in the farm. He used to pick up that and eat, because of the harvesting, a lot of grains will fall in the farm. So, he used to eat that. So, Kanam means a grain. Atti, iti Kanadaha. So, he was living a Unchavritti. They call Unchavritti means this kind of thing where you basically just pick up the grains and you sustain yourself. So, he has propounded this Vaisheshika Darshanam. Anyway, and why they are called Vaisheshika, Swamiji? Because they talk about Vishesha. There is one particular thing. A Vishesha is a unique identification factor, like passport, like social security card, etc. Right? Like our Aadhaar card in India. It's a unique identification factor which is associated with every Atma. And that's called Vishesha. So they talk about this. They have a concept of such a unique identification factor associated to the Atma. And no other philosopher talks about like that. So these people who talk about Vishesha, that particular factor, so they are called Vaisheshikas. So this is how it is. And they say that, there are certain, in this creation, there are certain materials which are nityam, which will be present even in the dissolution state. Pralaya also, they will be there. Eternal substances are there which will not die. The first one is Akasha. They say Akasha never resolves. And even in the Pralaya it will be there. That's why Akasha is a Nitya Dravyam. Then time, Kalaha, is a Nitya Dravyam. Nitya Dravyam means eternal substance. Even present during creation, of course, but even in Pralaya also. And then Manaha, mind. Then Atma. All these are, Nitya Dravyam. Nitya Dravyam means they are eternal substances. Even Pralaya cannot affect them. They will be there in Pralaya also. Anyway, and Parmanus. They are basically atomic scientists. Really. They talk about Parmanus, building block of the entire creation. They say out of 5 elements, Akasha being, it is not created, it will be there. Therefore, Akasha does not have Parmanu. Other four elements, Vayu, Jalam, Agni and the earth, in a dissolution state in Pralaya, they will be in the form of Parmanus. And when creation is going to happen, then these Parmanus will join, becomes Anus. And then 3 Anus will join and like that, And that's how it becomes gross, ultimately. When the dissolution is going to be there, then this whole gross elements will dissolve into the state of, they go up to the state of Parmanus. And Akasha will be one which accommodates all the Parmanus, which will accommodate all the minds, which will accommodate all the Atmas, which will accommodate time. That will be, Akasha is a Nitya Dravyam. And along with this, these things are also there. Unfortunately, I have to discuss this because, this is part of Bhashyam. But I hope you won't feel that much boring. That's what my hope is, actually. Anyway, so this, so many Atmas will be there, definitely. And, they will be there even in the Pralayas also. And a very interesting thing is, they say Atmas are Jadam. Atmas are many, and they are Jadam, inert. And mind also is a Jadam. Atma is eternal, Atmas are many, and Atmas are infinite. Each Atma is infinite. Take it as it is, Each Atma is infinite, eternal, and they are many. Now, many and eternal, many and infinite, how they go together, that they only know. But anyway, being infinite and still many. How do you count infinite many? I don't know. But that is what they say anyway. And how does this consciousness, Jnanam comes? Oh, we have told you, right, that it is a property. Jnanam or consciousness is a property, like Ichcha, Sukham, Dukkham, Raga, Dvesha, Samskara, same way Jnanam is a property. That also is generated. When? When, Atma and Man, and that mind, when they unite, then consciousness is generated. See, that is what the thing is. In a deep sleep state, when mind resolves, where is consciousness? In a waking state, when the mind is awake, then Atma Mana Sanyoga takes place. So consciousness is generated. So this is how they explain. Anyway, so they both are Jadam, basically, mind and Atma, but this consciousness is generated like that in Jagrata Avastha, etc. In Sushupti, again that Sanyoga is gone, and then again you become Jadam. In Sushupti you are Jadam, you are inert, and in Jagrata Avastha you are conscious. Okay. Then, so this is, the consciousness is generated like this, and then other gunas also. When mind and Atma unites, then Ichcha, Sukham, Dukkham, that's how in Jagrata Avastha only you know. Raga, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Ichcha, all this, where do you know? In Sushupti or in Jagrata Avastha? In Jagrata Avastha. Along with consciousness, all other things also are known in Jagrata Avastha. And when then Sanyoga takes place, if both are Jadam, I would like to attribute these 8 gunas to the mind. Why to Atma? No. They are attributes, these are the attributes to be given to the Atma. Mind does not have any attribute. So, these 8 gunas are generated when mind and Atma unite. In fact, both are Jadam by nature, but they unite, this thing happen. Okay. That is okay in Sushupti. What about Pralayam? In Pralayam, Atma Mana Sanyoga will not take place at all. Right now there is a creation, and therefore whenever you wake up, the Sanyoga takes place. But in Pralaya, both are there. Atmas are there in this space. Mind also will be there in the space. But they cannot unite. And therefore in Pralayam, Atma remains Jadam. Mind also remains Jadam. When creation occurs, like in Jagrata Avastha, when creation is going to occur, then Atma Mana Sanyoga takes place. And all Atma becomes a conscious entity. And that is how they are also there in the creation. Along with Jagat, this Jiva also come. So beautiful, right? And therefore, and so basically This is how, in Pralayam, they are there but not. But then how do you know that Atmas are many in Pralayam? How do you know? How do you know? In Pralaya is a avastha where you don't know anything. Then how do you count that Atmas are many in Pralayam? Pralaya means Pralaya. So they say, there is a unique identification factor given by Ishvara to every Atma. Like Aadhaar card is, specific for every person. It's a unique identification number, whatever. So same way, so that unique identification factor is there with the Atma, every Atma. And that is how they remain separate. There are many with that particular unique identification factor called Vishesha. Definitely, so Atma in Pralayam does not have these 8 gunas. Ichha, Sukham, Dukkham, Raga, Dvesha, Samskara will not be there. But in Pralayam, this Vishesha will be there. This Vishesha, unique identification factor will be there with every Atma, and therefore, they remain separate. That is what Bhashyakara mentions. That's how I have addressed this. Bhashyakara says, Na api antyaha visheshaha atmanaha bedakaha santi pratishariram tesham sattve pramana anupapattehe antyaha visheshaha, which are ultimate factors, visheshaha, that unique identification factor, which are antyaha, which are available in the Pralaya. So, in Pralaya, Atma has that unique identification factor that's called Antya Visheshaha. Na api Atmanaha Bedakaha Santi. Bhashyakara says, how do you say that these Visheshas are there? Unique identification factors are there in Pralaya, associated with every Atma. How do you say that? How do you say that? And Bhashyakara says, Atmanaha Bedakaha. One Atma is separated by another Atma by unique identification factor. Right? My passport is different from your passport. My Aadhaar card is different from your Aadhaar card. My SSN is different from your SSN. Therefore, ultimately, but how do you know? How do you know? We are asking them. How do you know that, Atmas are different in Pralaya and they have these Visheshas associated with everyone? How do you know? Prati shariram tesam sattve. Prati shariram. Associated with every body means here associated with every Atma. This kind of Visheshas are there. How do you say? Sattva means they exist. They are present in Pralaya. How do you say? Bhashyakara says you cannot say. Why? Why I cannot say? Whatever I say you can't say. And whatever you say in the classes that you are allowed to say. What is this? What is this? These Vedantins are really arrogant people, I think. Yeah. Pramana anupapattehe. This is Bhashyam. Single, one word answer. Pramana anupapattehe. You don't have any proof to say that unique identification factors are there associated to every Atma in Pralaya. No. My eyes are there. What do you see with your eyes when Pralayam? In Pralaya, you yourself are not there. Where is your perception? Where is the perception? Pralaya is avastha where no one is available to say that, Vishesha is there in Atma. Pramana anupapattehe. There is no proof. Anupapatti means it is not tenable without any proof to talk about Visheshas present with every Atma, particular Atma, in Pralaya avastha. It's impossible. So, means the pramanas, the proofs available to the human being called Paurusheya Pramana cannot know what is there in Pralaya. To talk about Pralaya, you definitely should go to a proof, which is other than available to the human beings, because the human being himself was not there in Pralaya. So you should go to a Pramana, which is Apaurushaya, which is Shastra basically. Shastra's subject matter is Apaurushaya. Therefore, what is written in the Veda cannot be disproven also. Cannot be proven. To prove, you have to use your means of knowledge. Nothing can be proven or disproven what is written in the Veda. Punyam and Papam. You say they are not there. I say it is there. Who is right, who is wrong? Who is right, who is wrong? No, they are not there. I say where you have gone to see that they are not there. What is available to the means of knowledge, well, I can say that it is there or not. Say this clip is there on the table. Well, I can definitely say, well, I can see it and therefore I say it is there. Now, in the next class, suppose if it is not there, I can say it is not there. Because what is available to the means of knowledge, available to the human being, and you prove the existence through that, then I can prove a non-existence also through that, of that clip, etc. But Punyam Papam is called Adrushtam. Adrushtam is na drishtam. At any time in a human life, no one is able to see whether Punyam is there or not, Papam is there or not. You cannot say. And therefore, entire subject matter of the Veda is like this. Devatas, lokas, different lokas, Swarga, etc. And even Atma, not available for perception. Adreshyam, Agrahyam, Achakshushrotram, Tadapani Padam, Mundaka Upanishad. Adreshyam, Agrahyam, Achakshushrotram, which is not an object of the senses of perception, which is not an object of senses of organs of action, or not an object. How can you say it is there or not? So, well, then you have to resort to a means of knowledge which is other than available to the human being, called Apaurushe Pramana. And so we both have to go to Shastra. And if Shastra says, yes, in Pralaya, before creation, many Atmas were there with a particular identification factor, unique identification factor. If Shastra says, let's accept it. But Shastra talks about Pralaya Avastha. All Upanishad talks about. And they say, Sadeva Soma Idamagra Asit Ekameva Advitiyam. Sadeva Soma Idamagra Asit. Well, before the creation, there was one Atma alone. Ekameva Advitiyam. One without second. Where are many Atmas? Nothing. So they don't talk about that. One limitless self, which is there, out of which the whole creation has come through its Maya, etc. And therefore, Shastra does not talk about many Atmas with Visheshas, etc. And therefore, better you should have a Vishesha Jnanam of a self, that the self is Avishesha. Let's have a Vishesha Jnanam of the self. And what is that Vishesha Jnanam? That Atma is free from any attributes. Atma is Avishesha. That is a Vishesha Jnanam we all should acquire. Because Atma is a Vishesha that is everyone has. That knowledge everyone has. That I am along with all attributes. Everyone takes oneself to be with attributes. And therefore, ultimately, you require knowledge. Through this means of knowledge, Pramana Shastra will give you the specific knowledge, Vishesha Jnanam, that you are free from attributes. That's a Pramana we have. That's a proof. And therefore, we are not able to accept this thing. Anyway, this is much is enough. Ataha, Bhashyakara says, Samam Brahma Ekam. This Brahman, which is one without second, which is devoid of any change, which is not subject to time, can never undergo a change. Time can affect. Time can bring a change. What is subject to time definitely undergoes a change. It may be a gross body, it may be a subtle body, it may be senses, it may be organs of action, everything. It may be prana also. Hunger, thirst, changes. Everything. Everything changes because they are subject to time. They are affected by time. But the Atma, which is not subject to time, does not undergo change, called Samam. Ekam. Ekameva Advitiyam. So Bhashyakara says, this Brahman, Samam, Ekam. Tasmat Brahmani eva te sthitaha. This Jnanis, who knows this Brahman as the very self. That's important. Yeah, Brahman is one which is the cause of the creation, etc. He does not give any purpose. Knowing this has no purpose, no moksha. Brahman is the very self. That's a purpose. That serves the purpose. Because Brahman is free. If you say, you are Brahman, means you are free. You are free. That serves the purpose. That gives ultimately leads to moksha. So, Samam Brahma Ekam Cha Tasmat Brahmani Eva Te Sthitaha. So, these Jnanis have abided into this Brahman. They don't have this kind of a notion that I am a knower of Brahman. No, that's another attribute. I am a knower. I am a knower is attribute, really. You say I am a knower of a pot. I say I am a knower of Brahman. You say I am a knower of a clip. I say I am knower of a page. So these jnanis, they don't take themselves as a knower of Brahman. Jnanis say I am Brahman. They don't say I am knower of Brahman. From onlooker's standpoint, well, we say he is a knower of Brahman. But he doesn't say that. That's how in Manisha Panchakam it is very beautifully said, Brahma eva na Brahmavit. Brahma eva. Jnani is Brahman, not Jnani is Brahmavit. Jnani is not knower of Jnani, but you are saying Jnani. It's a Vishesha. It's another attribute. I was Ajnani and now I am Jnani, etc. And any attribute brings limitation, as I told you very much. More attributes, more limitations. More samsara. Less attributes, less claim of attributes, more towards moksha. More towards moksha. Entirely different thing, right? What materialist basically employ the means in order to become big. And what we employ the means in order to become big, we also want to become big. To be big, I want to be big is a desire with which I am born. And it has to be fulfilled. It's not a ingenuine kind of a desire. It's a very genuine desire. I want to be big. One is born with this desire. In fact, one is born with this desire. I want to be Brahman. Big means the big. Nobody is interested in becoming big which has a certain boundary. I want to cross even that boundary also. And therefore, ultimately, because that's my innate nature. But being self-ignorant, I don't know that this is my innate nature. That's the thing. Anyway, so, samam brahma ekam cha tasmad brahmani evati sthitaha tasmad na dosha gandha matram api tan sprushati. Dosha gandha matram api tan. This, well, definitely, tan means these wise people, well, they are not affected. And by this dosha gandha, not by dosha gandha, iota. Dosha gandha matram is not even an iota of this impurity can affect these people who know Brahman as nirdosham, free from all attributes. And dehadi sangata atma darshana abhimana bhavat. Dehadi sangata atma darshana abhimana abhavat. So, in this Dehadi Sangata, in this assembly called this body, mind, sense complex, they don't have a I sense. So, they don't have a, well, basically they are free from this. They don't take themselves to be a ego or ahankara. This Atma Darshan Abhimana is ahankara bhavana. So, taking this body, mind, sense complex as the self, which is called ahankara, they are free from this ego, well, and due to that, well, whatever the doshas or attributes belong to the bodies, mind, sense complex, they are not affected at all because they don't have I sense, they don't identify with that. Now, regarding this, there are certain doubts which we want to resolve. What is this? Well, they don't identify with the body means, do they not feel the pain of the body also? And that is how they have brought out several stories also. One of the stories of a Sadashiva Brahmendra Saraswati. And, well, they say he was, walking naked on the road. And there was some enemy of that. He was a jnani, actually. And earlier he was a yogi, and then, well, he in pursuit of this Vedanta, etc. And then he became jnani. He was a Brahmanist Mahatma. And regarding him, there is a story that he was walking naked on the road. And one of his enemy came and cut his hand from here. And he didn't know at all. And then he kept on walking. And then another person came and joined that hand again. This is all, okay. And that also he doesn't know. So, Dehadi Sangata Atma Darshana Bhavat means he is not identified with the body, mind, sense complex, means he doesn't feel pain at all, which occurs to the body. Other example they give of a Ramana Maharshi. And we are all generally carried away by this kind of things. And they say this Ramana Maharshi also underwent a surgery, well, without anesthesia. And therefore, and he did not feel pain. And therefore, whatever the jnanis are there, they never feel the pain of the body also. So after the class, well, I take a pin and I prick. And if I feel pain, means I have not gained jnana yet. That proves like that. I think highly diabetic people all maybe sometimes they don't feel pain at all. In gangrene, I heard that in gangrene, etc., means if you get hurt in the leg, etc., and even the blood comes out, you don't feel. Sometimes I heard that even a highly diabetic patient get some chest pain, some ailment of a heart, etc., they don't feel pain at all. Certain skin diseases are there in which will remove that sensation of touch, etc. Well, those people are jnanis then, because they don't feel pain of the body. This is not true. Then how will I understand that? I will discuss that thing. See, this is a wider misconception. Deha abhimana, identification of the body, or taking body as a self, of course, they are of two types. First is called samanya abhimanam, which is caused by prarabdha, and which is a cause of basically a biological or physical pain. So, well, prarabdha has brought this body, right? It's a fructification of my own prarabdha. Karma is this body. And therefore, well, prarabdha will give you sukham dukkham. Then sukham dukkham to the body, that is correct. But body is inert. How will you feel sukham dukkham? It won't. And therefore, definitely ahankara should be there. Identification should be there with the body. Then only a one person can feel pain or even sukham also. Pleasure and pain both. And therefore, samanya abhimanam of this ego, ahankara, will be there with this body. Identification with the body will be there, born of prarabdha. So long as body will be there, to that extent, I mean, up to that point, this pleasure and pain experiences will be there to this ego. That's samanya abhimana. And the second is a vishesh abhimana. Vishesh abhimanam which is caused by ignorance of the self. Samanya abhimanam is caused by the prarabdha, and which will result into a biological or physical pain. Vishesh abhimana is caused by ignorance of the self, which is a cause of emotional pain, born of projections, etc. And because of that only I talk about punarjanma and purvajanma, etc. also. Vedanta cannot remove one dehabhimana. Vedanta cannot remove basically prarabdhajanya, dehabhimana. It cannot remove. It cannot remove. And therefore, so long as prarabdha is there, that will remain. So long as the body will be there, that kind of pleasure and pain will occur in the mind, definitely. And but this other kind of a abhimanam, vishesh abhimanam, one can become free because it is born of self-ignorance. The example is like this vishesh abhimana to the body occurs when your mind or intellect is developed. Like a child is there, infant. Infant when he is born, definitely he has prarabdha. Identification with the body will be there, but samanya abhimana. He will have a physical pain, biological pain, etc. But he will not have a mental suffering. Well, I am now sick and now my father has to, admit me and he is not having much money and there will be a lot of expenses of the hospitalization and this and that. That kind of a thing will not be there. Because child does not have a developed intellect. And since it doesn't have a developed intellect, it will not have a vishesh abhimana. And which is called suffering, mental suffering, etc. Emotional pain, we can say. That he doesn't have. Even animals do not have. Animals also do not have. They have a samanya abhimana with the body, and therefore they also undergoes a pleasure pain experiences also. So they also will not have. And but vishesh abhimana, which will be there when the infant becomes mature physically. The buddhi also develops. And then vishesh abhimana will be there. Therefore, compared to infant, a mature, physically mature person has a physical pain, biological pain, etc. Also, suffering will be there. And where it has been told like this has been there in Drigdrishya Viveka. So, Vedanta removes this Vishesha Abhimana and other Abhimanas cannot be removed, has been told in Drigdrishya Viveka in verse number 8. There it has been told that there are three types of a tadatmyam, identification with the body. And out of that, only one tadatmya, identification, goes by this Vedanta Jnana. We can understand very well. The tadatmya which is born of ignorance will go by the knowledge, being opposite. But other tadatmyam will not go. The first tadatmyam they call, the Vidyaranya says, Sahaj tadatmyam. Sahaja, Saha means together, Janma. Born together or inborn. This inborn tadatmya is there, which will not go. What is that? Whenever, the mind, that aham vritti arises, well, immediately the reflection of consciousness will be also there. Chidabhasa also will be there. Immediately. So these two are born together. The ahankara, the ego, and Chidabhasa, they are all the time associated. That cannot go by jnana. Could you follow that? So the ego, identification of the ego with the reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa, due to which, well, aham vritti shines, of course. That cannot go by this jnana. So sahaj tadatmya cannot go. Second, karmaja tadatmya. Simple. Karmaja tadatmya, which is born of karma. So the ego has, the ahankara has identification with this body, which is born of ultimately karma, prarabdha karma. Right? And therefore that also will not go. This body is a product of karma. Both the bodies, subtle body. Subtle body also karmajanyam. And gross body also karmajanyam. Yeah. Subtle body also. If you get a human gross body, accordingly the sukshma sharira also, will be of a human. And once you leave this, and if I gain, suppose, a body of a gross body of an elephant, then it will not have a human subtle body. The subtle body also, changes. Otherwise, elephant will start talking. Elephant will immediately go to the market and says, well, you give me some cloths because I feel shy. Yeah, because self-conscious, right? Human subtle body means our mind is totally self-conscious, which you won't find there. So accordingly, subtle body also changes due to karma. Karma only brings this kind of a change. So karmaja tadatmya. Ego has an identification with both the bodies. That also will not go. When the body falls, then only it goes. Right? And the third one is Bhranti Jatadatmya. The ego has an identification with the self. How do you know? Ego is superimposed upon self. That's how everyone takes oneself to be a jiva, individual. No one tells that I am Brahman. Even after telling for many years, person is not ready to claim that I am Brahman. He says I am jiva, individual. That shows an ahankara is also identified with the self, Brahman. In fact, ahankara is a mithya born of ultimately this consciousness only. Is non-separate from the consciousness through Maya only. Well, definitely. So this is how ahankara and Atma, the Brahman, also have identification. That can go. You will claim that you are not ahankara, you are not a jiva, but you are Brahman. That is what Mahavakya is working. That is what Mahavakya is, that you are Brahman. You means this jiva, the individual ego, has been told that you are not jiva but Brahman. And therefore, this Bhrantija Tadatmyam only can go. And therefore, Jnani is also depending upon, his prarabdha. Of course, Jnanis will not have prarabdha, we will not discuss that. But so long as body is there, identification of the ahankara will be there. Ahankara has to remain till the body should be there. Otherwise, we will enjoy this prarabdha. Sukha, dukkha, some experiences should be there, which is called ego. Karta, bhokta, etc. He has done something in the past, so he only has to. So, not just body should be there, ego also should be there. And that ego should have identification with the body. Then only Sukha Dukkha experience. That is how in a operation table, well, they definitely makes the person unconscious, right? And therefore, even though they cut the body, etc., no experience. Therefore, ego identification should be there. A conscious being, definitely who pervades this body, etc., definitely that identification is required in order to have experience of pleasure, pain, etc. That will be there till the body will be there. So, Jnanis also will have a body pain. That's all I want to convey. Jnanis will have a body pain, even mental pain also. Yeah. Please understand this. People feel Jnanis means, well, they are like inert. They are stones. Means this COVID situation, nothing happens to Jnani because they are basically, they feel everything is mithya. No. In fact, all good emotions were talked about, present in the Jnani. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitraha karunaha evacha. So Jnani loves everyone and has compassion for everyone. Then definitely all emotions are there. So as per the Ishvara's order, all will be there. A human mind will definitely, it's a psychological order. So human mind will definitely react in a given situation, react in a particular fashion. That will be there. But that suffering will not be there. Emotional suffering will not be there. But immediate reactions, etc., in terms of pleasure. Some favorable situation is there, well, he says, yeah, it's good. I like it. He gets a joy also. Unfavorable, very too much unfavorable situations. Suppose some Jnanis, yesterday only I was giving an example. So Jnanis, this is an example of one Swami only, it's a reality. One Jnani's good old friend just died and in a car accident. And he got a news. And he was not, but he was sad. So sadness is there. Then only that's a prarabdha. Yeah, that's a prarabdha he is experiencing. But then mental suffering, after 15 minutes, this is a true story. After 15 minutes he took the class. And you won't find that really he has lost his friend. That's the thing. So that immediate reaction, according to the situation, will be always there. So in his mind also seeing this COVID, etc., empathy, etc., all will be there. All will be there. Anyway, so this is regarding this question, whether Jnani will have suffering or not, etc., body pain will be there or not, or mental pain will be there or not, it will be there. It will be there. It will not continue he will not build up. Like a child will have some kind of a mental pain or physical pain, temporarily it will be there. He will not have a mental suffering, emotional suffering, etc. Will not be there. That's how it is. Anyway, and then says, Dehadi Sangata Atma Darshana Abhimanavad Vishayam tu Tat Sutram Samasamabhyam Vishamasame Pujataha iti Puja Vishayatva Visheshanat. Puja Vishayatva Visheshanat. There is a specific occasion called puja, etc. And regarding that, we have that Gautama Sutra called Samasamabhyam Vishamasame Pujataha. This Pujataha means is equal to Pujayam. In pujas, in this kind of occasions, religious occasion, social occasions, etc., well, certain norms are there. And according to norms only, well, one has to go. And therefore, Vishama Drashti is required. Even if you are organizing. Suppose a Grihastha Jnani, right? Grihastha Jnani is organizing and performing some karma. He calls priest and performs. Then definitely, even though he is a Samadarshi, knows that everyone is Brahman, yet, well, he will give a different dakshina and honor differently, depending upon the scholarship of priest, etc. That will be there. And so, depending upon the context, basically, we have to interpret properly. Where the Dharma Shastra is there, definitely you are required to have a Vishama Darshanam. In Vyavara, Vishamata is required, depending upon the qualities of a person, etc. But still you know that in reality everyone is just one thing alone. And this is, Vyavara is at the level of name and form, which is mithya, etc. The reality cannot do any Vyavara. That's how Atma is called Avyavaryam. In Mandukya it has been told, Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham. There it has been told in that mantra, Avyavaryam. Atma is never available for Vyavara. What is available for Vyavara is this name and form. Of course, or in presence of Atma, or Atma endowed with the given name and form, conditioned by name and form, particular body, mind, sense complex. That is what it is. And one line. Drishyate hi brahmavit shadangavit chaturvedavit iti pujadanadau gunavishesha sambandha karanam. Karanam. It is a condition. Condition with regard to what? Pujadanadau. With regard to this, pujadanadau means pujadanadi vishaye. With regard to this puja, with regard to this danam, etc., with regard to this honor, etc., we have one condition. What condition? Guna vishesha sambandha. This honoring, etc., and it has a connection with the guna vishesha. It has a connection with the particular qualifications. If qualifications are plus and minus, then honor also should be plus and minus. That's what Bhashyakara says. So guna vishesha sambandha karanam. This karanam means the condition is there in puja, danadi, etc., all this, in these occasions, religious occasions, etc. Always one should look into this aspect, that the particular qualifications of different people involved in that function, etc., in honoring them. And who are those people? So this basically, he is going to talk about it, two types of people who are taking this body, mind, sense complex as Atma, who are Ajnanis basically, who takes Ahankara as Atma, who takes themselves as a Jiva, etc. And one is this priest. He says, Brahmavit, Shadangavit, Chaturvedavit. Brahmavit means, Ramarai Kavi well says, Brahmavit means one who knows Brahman, Jnani. Someone says Brahman means Veda also. The one meaning of Brahma means Veda also. So Brahmavit means one who knows Veda. Either way. Shadangavit, one who knows the sixfold angas of the, Vedanga. So Shadangavit, Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakaranam, Jyotisham, Chandasam, etc. One who is a knower of this. And Chaturvedavit, one who knows Chaturveda. Definitely, one who knows just angas, doesn't know Veda, well, he will be given less dakshina. One who is a Brahmavit, suppose a Jnani, etc., will be given more. And Chaturvedavit also accordingly you should give. So this in priest, this Taratamya is there, then definitely in that occasion, religious occasion, definitely Guna Vishesha Sambandha Karanam. So honoring them, well, these particular qualifications of each one, everyone, should be taken into consideration. That is a condition. Karanam. That's a condition. So there is a Vishamadrashti. Right? There is a Vishamadrashti. Vishamadrashti is not to the Atma. Vishamadrashti is to the name and form. To the body, mind, sense complex, where the knowledge is there, etc. And wow. So this is, has been told. And now he talks about not just priest in a religious occasion, but Yajmanas also. There also Yajmanas are of different type. Accordingly, they should be honored. And that is how it is. One is Agnihotri, one is a Somayaji, another is a Vajpayee, like that. So then, well, Somayaji will be definitely honored more, etc. And one who is a Agnihotri, I think he is honored less. That's what my understanding. I may be right or wrong. And Vajpayee also may be accordingly. I mean, in his proper weight, he also should be honored. So Yajmanas also have that kind of a, different types of Yajmanas are there. They should be also honored accordingly. Not just priest. That also is there. We will discuss that next time. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.